Welcome to our white towel panel videos. This is where we're going to talk about the Canucks 50th anniversary. Our series coming up now. We feature the current decade. Well, I guess the decade we've just finished at 2010 to 2019. Now, obviously, it kicks off with the Cup final loss to the Bruins. But to me, this decade, the decade we've just had, while there were peaks and valleys, and they're still climbing out of that deep valley, it's actually not that different from all the other decades that we've seen. There's a spike in there somewhere, and then a tremendous crash. There's no consistency in the Canucks in their whole 50 years.
Yeah, is it EKGs? Is that what measures heart patterns? And somebody has a heart attack, and then it kind of, and you're absolutely right. Like the Canucks, for the most part, you look at the 50 years, and they've been mediocre.
Yeah.
I think anybody would say that. But there's these amazing spikes, some of which seem to come out of nowhere, like 82, 94, after the, they had,
I know they had
to run 92, 93. I know the Gary Smith year where they make the playoffs.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's also stunning at just how far and how quickly they fall too.
Yeah.
And again, you look back, the 94, and then a couple of years later, they're firing Pat Quinn and that crazy Mike Keenan era. And I think that is really epitomized by that, the best Canuck team ever, the Sedin, Ryan Kessler, Roberto Luongo teams. Really close in 9-10, make it to the Cup final 11, win the President's Cup, and then fall off a cliff.
Hi, Torts.
And clean house and bring in another new regime and the rest of it. And I don't know, are they on a little bit of an uptick now? I think so. Yeah, but it fits into the larger pattern in the history of this franchise.
Yeah, and it's really quite funny to see where they're heading. And I don't think I'd really put these pieces together until we did this project.
Yeah.
But you're right. It's like they get so close, like Icarus. They get close to the sun, and then their wings fall off, and they crash, and then they're trying to rebirth themselves. And I look at it now, they are following a very similar pattern. You've got your young stars building around skill. You just wonder, like, how long is it's going to take to get there. But what does it say? I mean, I know we've talked about this before. While you can sit there and call it mediocre or, lament the fact that this franchise hasn't won a Stanley Cup, there's no shortage of just amazing stories.
No.
So many more than a lot of other franchises that are around.
No, and it is funny, and that's been the great part about this series, of going and exploring those stories, because so many of them are fresh now. Like, they're so old, it's the irony, right? They're so old, they're new again. And it'll be interesting delving into this part of, the 2010s and up, because, I know I'm doing one on the drafting of Elias Pettersson. I mean, that's fairly recent history, right? A significant moment in the Canucks story. So it is, and it really is a remarkable history. Again, not really appreciated once you get east of the Rocky Mountains, but I think it really has been, for everybody involved, and it is really has been a great and joyous ride to do this stuff.
To bring it to the point that we're at now, it has been quite amusing to see that, like, for every Pat Quinn or Alain Vigneault, there's been a Tom Watt, Bill LaForge, or a John Tortorella. And then you've got the heroes and villains along the way as well. Right. So, this is, I'm curious now to see what Travis Green is going to be at the end of this story.
Well, and again, if we're going to pick out themes here, I think that's the one thing that kind of repeats itself over and over again in Canucks history, is that lack of stability in the front office. I mean, we get a little dewy over the Pat Quinn era. It might have lasted 10 years, and the 10th year was such a tire fire, right?
Yeah.
And it seems like they've been close. Brian Burke comes in and kind of resurrects the franchise, and builds the West Coast Express team, and then he's gone 2 years after they make the big leap forward. Dave Nonis barely gets his name. Mike Gillis, no matter what you say, arguably the most successful GM in franchise history. His era lasts 6 years, and he's gone. And now, I think we can reasonably ask, 5 straight years out of the playoffs, are we looking at another regime change here? And that's really unfortunate, but that's been, I think, if you could pinpoint one thing about Canucks history as really what stood in the way of this team, advancing, or a long period of success, that would be it.
So another 10 years when we're doing the 60th anniversary series, are we going to be sitting here talking about Benning and Green as heroes or villains?
That's a great question.
You won't be
that,
here.
That is a great question, and you can ask my replacement when that time comes
Well,
around.
let's hope that my replacement isn't around to ask that.
There'll be a Paul and Ed hologram here talking about
All right.
the glorious 2019-2020 season.
Starting next week, you'll be able to read about the Stanley Cup final and all the way through the glorious, the torch year, the Heritage Classic, the storming of the Calgary locker room, drafting of Elias Pettersson. So many good and bad, and always amusing and entertaining moments. Thanks for watching, everyone. You can listen to our podcast by subscribing through Apple Podcasts, The White Towel, where we talk about the Canucks every week. Thanks to Key West Ford at keywestford.com for sponsoring this series. They have the largest selection of trucks in Western Canada. Give them a look at keywestford.com. Thanks, everyone.